Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Welcome into the ultimate Cleveland sports show. 30 minutes of nothing but Cleveland sports coming at you. I am Mikey McNuggets, and we know Joe Flacco is going to start this week against the Packers for the Browns, but will this be the last time we see Joe Flacco start for Cleveland in the 2025 season? G. Bush.
Hey, listen, the Browns did a spectacular job on the Ravens last week in Derrick Henry in the run game. This week, another formidable opponent. Josh Jacobs comes to town. Can they stop him? We'll talk about the ways they can stop that Packers running game. Jason.
Browns are 8.5-point underdogs. If you don't want to watch, I don't blame you. We're going to tell you what happens. Pre-written headlines. We'll tell you what happens before it happens at the end of the show.
Guys, Browns can't seem to win a turnover battle. Is it luck, or can you coach turnovers? We're going to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, they've lost 9 straight. We'll get to that in a bit, but let's start with the quarterback situation with the Browns. Joe Flacco has thrown 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions through the first 2 games of the season. We talked during the YouTube portion of UCSS about his limited mobility and how that kind of impacts what Kevin Stefanski can or cannot call, how much of the playbook is truly open. So we know he's starting against Green Bay on Sunday. The Browns are 8.5-point dogs in this game. But, gee, will this be the last time we see Joe Flacco start? And will the quarterback change come after this, or are we getting too far ahead of ourselves?
I've learned that with the summer and the quarterback battle, it's not about what I would do. It's about what the Browns and Kevin Stefanski are going to do. And if you look at the track record of Kevin Stefanski, he's going to play this very conservative. And the reason he's going to do this is because at least if you continue to take Joe Flacco and put him out there and almost use him as a punching bag a little bit, trial and error, it protects you from having to have certain questions asked to you early. Because if he put the rookies out there, which I would do, he's going to have to go overtime into making a game plan. He's going to have to go in overtime and to figure out the best way to get these guys to be competent and to find ways to get them some easy targets, some touchdowns, some points. With Joe, he can keep his status quo because he knows Joe's experience and he knows what he's doing in terms of get prepared for the week. So I think he does not want to start the clock on a season where you bench Joe Flacco after this game. And then you have to have a situation where now you're talking about with rookies, can you go on our schedule and pick the point where the wins come? Because then now you could be talking about, oh, we had a tough year, 3 or 4 wins, to now you possibly could be talking about 0 to 1 wins. And then that puts you in the crosshair, so to speak, in terms of you being on the hot seat because people are now looking at you like, what happened here?
Yeah, no, this is not going to be the last game that Joe starts because even if it all unravels and they go to the rookies next week, it is a long, long season, and I believe it would boomerang back around to where he would be back later in the year. So just because they even if and when they do go to the rookies, and I do think it will be probably sooner than later, there's still always the possibility that this comes back. I remember last year when it was unraveling on them and they were playing Jameis, and I was kind of having conversations like, well, what's the point? Like, he's not going to be back. Play Dorian. We heard all along how much you guys like Dorian and what you thought of Dorian. Play him. And they finally went to him in December. And that was a really long month, guys. Really, really long month. So you do have to sort of manage the fact that it is a really, really long season. We are still very early into this. I don't think they're close to making a change. I think Joe starts, obviously, Sunday against the Packers. And unless he gets hurt or unless it's worse than it was Sunday, I expect him to start at least a couple of more games before they make a move.
Look at Stefanski's track record. We could say a lot of things about Kevin Stefanski, both positive and negative. One thing that's almost undeniable is he's been incredibly patient with his quarterbacks. 2021 with Baker being hurt, left him in there, let him try to play through it. We saw Deshaun Watson even last year. I know the injury derailed his season, but there was no indication that he was going to be benched at any point, despite the fact he was putting up some historically low regular box score stats, advanced analytics. The eye test said he shouldn't be out there. There was no indication he was ever going to make a quarterback change. You mentioned sticking with Jameis and then eventually getting to DTR. If you look at the schedule, too, do you really want to throw a rookie out against Detroit, in London against the Brian Flores defense, on the road in Pittsburgh in Week 6, where the Browns haven't won in 23 years, then they're back home against the Dolphins? That seems to me the most reasonable situation to put a rookie quarterback into to be able to have early success. And I say that with the caveat of I am over the Joe Flacco experience. I'm ready to see the rookies, but if the question is, will this be Joe Flacco's last start? I don't think it will be.
It's an interesting conversation with Dylan because he is older than most rookies. He has way more experience than most rookies. But these are still 3rd and 5th round picks you're talking about with Dylan and Shador. If this was a first round, if they took a guy with the 2nd overall pick, he'd probably be in there by now. Like, he probably would already be starting. But there's a reason these guys went where they went. And so I think that's part of the reason for pause and for putting them in there. There is still plenty of games left to go. And like I said, it is coming. You are going to see them. I just don't think it's going to be right now. But October, yeah, at some point in October, I think we'll see Dylan. Maybe earlier than that. I mean, Joe's 40 years old. How long can he hold up?
Yeah, chance will get loud. Last week was a nasty week. This week, if they go out and look the same and Joe looks the same as he did, trust me, it's going to get louder. And every progressive week, it's going to get more and more difficult to then come back and say, all right, well, Joe gives us the best chance to win after each increasing loss. So we'll see how long it lasts.
Let's talk about the Browns' defense against this Packers offense. No one uses more motion, more unique alignments to create advantages in the run game more than Packers coach Matt LaFleur. Jim Schwartz, on the other hand, plays his traditional wide 9 defensive set and varies up what he does from a schematic standpoint less than almost any other defensive coordinator in football. So, G, when you look at this matchup, the creativity and the use of motion to create advantages from Matt LaFleur versus the standard wide 9 formations that Jim Schwartz runs, how do you think those two styles clash, and which side has a slight advantage come Sunday?
Well, look, the offense of Green Bay, they're putting up crazy points. And anytime you look at what Jim Schwartz does, go back and watch the game. We go back to the Houston Texans playoff game where, they used a lot of motion. They used a lot of stuff east and west. And the thing that you want to do is in the wide 9, you want to put Myles Garrett in conflict. You want to you want to get it to a point where he has to honor something else, whether it's a jet motion, whether you want to invite him upfield and then run something behind him. Like, you have to get him to stop his momentum. And I think Jim Schwartz, is a guy who just technically is out there running what he runs. He doesn't change up for much. He doesn't have people follow around. But I think if you have Myles Garrett, you always have a fighting chance. But anytime you have a quarterback like Jordan Love and an offense that can put points on the board, even if you're playing good defense and a nice running game like Josh Jacobs, I can't give them the advantage because the true disadvantage on defense comes from the Browns' offense. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it is what it is. 43 points last week. Most of it comes from turnovers and giving the ball to the Ravens inside your own territory. The Browns have short fields to go through. So I got to give the advantage to the Green Bay Packers because they have more firepower on offense as well.
The advantage of the Packers, but what the Browns did to the Ravens run game last week with Lamar and Derek was really, really impressive.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think any of us saw that coming. I think Mason Graham has shown out really well through 2 games as a rookie. We talked about Malik Collins earlier. The pass rush that he's been able to generate from inside is something the Browns really haven't had very often. We all know what Myles can do. We talked about Isaiah McGuire. PFF has told us Isaiah's really good, and we haven't really seen it. We saw it on Sunday, what they were talking about and why they would like Isaiah McGuire so much. So there is, and we haven't even gotten to Alex Wright yet, so there's reason for optimism up front. So would I give the advantage? You can't give the advantage. I said this on the YouTube show. I can't give the advantage to the Browns in anything. They're going against a Super Bowl contender, and they're not a very good team. But the strength of this team is the defensive line. So based on how they held Baltimore's run game in check, I do feel good about their chances against the Packers.
Yeah,
the run game.
You're going to see some alignments, some motion, some run plays that you probably have never seen before from the Packers this week. They played Thursday Night Football. They've had a long, extended week. Extra time off, more time in the lab for Matt LaFleur to go up against a defensive system that's been around for a while. Jim Schwartz, it works for Jim Schwartz. It's not even a knock on Schwartz. He just kind of stuck in the way that he likes to run a defense. As far as an advantage goes, I always lean towards the more motion creative side than the I know exactly where you're going to be and what you're going to do and what your responsibilities will be, just because there's one side in motion and one side set. It's a lot easier to adjust to where you know somebody's going to be than where you anticipate them being. But I do think how Schwartz counteracts some of the motion, some of the weird alignments. They'll hand the ball off to receivers too. They'll put Savion Williams, who's their fourth receiver, in the backfield. They ran a counter orbit motion into a handoff last week with Savion Williams, G. If Kevin Stefanski did that, it got 1 yard. We lose our minds. When Matt LaFleur does it, it's cool. I'm excited to see how those two styles clash. Another part of this matchup we have to talk about real quick, guys, is turnovers. The Browns have not forced a turnover since Week 16 last year. They have turned the ball over 77 times in the last 37 games. This season alone, they have 4 turnovers, no takeaways. G, you played at a high level, man. Are turnovers something you can coach, or is it luck? And can the Browns afford to lose the turnover battle for a 10th straight time this weekend if they're going to pull off the upset?
No, you can't teach. You can't bank on turnovers, right? You can't count on them. But what you can do is you can coach the things that cause turnovers. You can coach hustling down the line of scrimmage backside. There's a lot of times I watch all the time in the league where you concede certain things. Sometimes you see guys go down and fall down. You're like, dude, we used to have Austin Hooper, and we've been like, he's just catching the ball falling down. Like, make somebody tackle you, man. You can always stand a guy up and you can strip the football. You can always get your hands up as a defensive lineman, or when you tipping the ball, guys have their head on the swivel and trying to be aware so that they can look for intercepted passes and do things like that. Gang tackling. All those things are things that you can teach. You can teach the effort. You can teach the the skill sets. You can teach the ways that turnovers and create the circumstances in which turnovers usually happen. But you can't guarantee that you're going to get a turnover. So I don't think it's something that you can just bank on. But there's some things you can do to try to foster some turnover, the spirit of turnover, so to speak.
I would think every defensive coaches go for the ball when you're making a tackle.
Yeah.
You bring the arm down. If you have a sack, bring that arm down and hit the ball. Running back, same thing. You can't coach if the quarterback overthrows the receiver. Like that's luck. Mm-hmm. You can't coach a tip ball at the line of scrimmage, and now it's 50-50 ball. So I agree with the fact that, or the idea that turnovers are more fluky than they are coached, because teams fluctuate year to year. There's been years, it was a couple years ago, the Browns were among the league leaders in generating turnovers, and then with the same crew, they're toward the bottom. So there's some things that you can coach, but for the most part, I think a lot of it. Now, what you can control is the turnovers on your side. So a turnover margin, you have a lot more control over it, I think, than generating turnovers. But obviously, this offense needs all the help they can get. If this defense can set them up on a short field, or even better, get a pick six, that would be huge for a team like the Browns.
I played 1 year of football. It was second grade. I hated it. So I can't talk about coaching turnovers. Not what I can tell you is the Browns can't lose the turnover battle for a 10th straight game against a team like Green Bay. The roster, there's just too much talent disparity between the two rosters. The Browns have a razor-thin margin of error if they're going to pull off this upset. Razor-thin. And one thing that eliminates any chance of them winning is 2 or 3 silly turnovers, especially if they're not going to force 3 or 4 to have a positive turnover differential. The Browns may be able to coach some ways to force a fumble, get an interception, get lucky. I don't know. But I do know they can't lose a turnover battle for a 10th straight time. They've lost 9 in a row. That is the longest active streak in the NFL. All right, guys, we got to hit our first break. When we come back, we are going to look at some individual one-on-one matchups for this Sunday's game. And we all have different answers on what's the most important one-on-one matchup that will determine the winner. We'll get to that in 2 minutes right here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. It is time to look at some individual one-on-one matchups that could determine the winner of Sunday's Packers versus Browns game. We each picked one matchup to highlight, and I'm going to start us off here. To me, the Packers' best receiver this season has been Tucker Kraft. And if Tucker Kraft plays, that means Carson Schlesinger, their second-round pick, is going to be tasked with chasing him around the field. However, within the last hour, I want to read you a tweet from Adam Schefter. Packers tight end Tucker Kraft will not practice on Friday. Head coach Matt LaFleur told reporters that he didn't think Kraft needed to go on injured reserve, but was uncertain about his status for Sunday's game at Cleveland. If Kraft can't play, that is a major break for Cleveland, but if Kraft does play, how Carson Schlesinger follows him around the field and covers him on some of those deep passing attempts will be crucial to determining the outcome of this game. I mentioned this in the YouTube show. Jordan Love is averaging 13.3 air yards per attempt this season. That is almost 3.5 yards more than any other quarterback in football. He likes to push the ball downfield. The Browns can't give up many explosive plays if they want to keep up with this Green Bay offense. And that guy right there, number 85, has been their most explosive playmaker through 2 games. What say you guys on that matchup?
Well, we joked earlier in the YouTube show that Browns haven't covered a tight end since 1989 when they won the division. So tight ends have killed the Browns for years. That's a huge loss. If the Packers are without their leading receiver, it's only 2 games. But a pass-catching threat over the middle of the field, that's a significant loss for them. So something worth keeping an eye on. It certainly sounds like he's not playing. If they're even discussing IR at this point, that's 4 games.
Doesn't sound good.
It doesn't sound like he's playing.
Yeah, listen, you lose Kraft, and now all of a sudden you go to what my matchup is Devin Bush versus Josh Jacobs. Now you take a look at why that's important is now if Kraft is out and they don't have a short passing game, they may want to establish the run. And the thing about Devin Bush is he's the guy that I think they're going to need to use in some of the bigger packages where he's going to be down in the box and making sure he can stop the run. And if you can stop the run on those 2 downs, what you can then do is get to the best packages. And what that is having Myles Garrett get after the quarterback, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome has been playing very well as of late. That is with the strength of what the Browns want to do. But you need to get off the field first and stopping the run. Did a good job against the Ravens. If they can do that against the Packers at home, it gives them an opportunity to stay in this football game.
It is crazy that when Devin Bush was in Seattle and with Pittsburgh, everyone who covered those 2 teams and PFF and all the eyes in the sky, the film guys, were like, this guy's completely lost in the run game. Yeah. He cannot stop the run. And since he's come to Cleveland, it's been a year and 2 games now, he's been lost in pass coverage and has been an absolute run stuffer galore. He was awesome last week against Baltimore. You go back and watch the All-22 tape, a lot of those runs that Derrick Henry got hit in the backfield on was Devin Bush finding a hole, attacking, and making contact in the backfield. He's going to have to do it again against Josh Jacobs to slow down this Packers run game.
Some guys just fit better in certain systems than in others. And when you find the right fit, this is what you get. You get something like that.
Former first-round pick, by the way.
Top 5 pick, wasn't he?
Top
10.
He was coming out of Michigan. He was quick. He was twitchy. He was a monster at Michigan.
Him and Devin White. Devin White was the number 5 pick to the Bucs. He ended up going a little later. Jason, your matchup involves a former first-round pick and a former fourth-round pick.
Yeah, my matchup is Dawand Jones against Micah Parsons. I think everybody knows Micah's ability and what he brings as a pass rushing threat. But honestly, this is really Dawand Jones versus Dawand Jones. And his problems, the problems that Dawand has had to this point, are all correctable. And it's on him to fix it. And, you know, this is an incredible opportunity for him to establish himself as a franchise left tackle and make a lot of money next summer. But he has not played well through 2 games. PFF ranks him as one of the worst tackles in football. I think he was 90th out of 94 or something like that.
Correct.
I don't, I mean, say what you want about PFF rankings, but I think it just paints the picture of what the eyes tell you. And the eyes tell you that Kevin Stefanski was covering for him last week when he said it was the heat. It wasn't the heat. Dawand doesn't know his assignments in the run game. And he's blown too many assignments. He was great as a rookie in pass protection on the right side. I'm not ready to give up on him. It's only 2 games, but at the same time, he has to be significantly better than what he's been through 2 weeks. And maybe the answer is move him back to the right side. Maybe that is the answer. But in this season where the Browns are trying to figure out what they have at different spots, figure out who they are, who are pieces to build around moving forward and who's not, what a huge problem to solve this would be if he can establish himself as a franchise left tackle. It's all in front of him. It's up to him. He's in shape, seems to be in shape, seems to have his weight under control. So those are the things that have held him back in the past. He just has to know his assignments. And if Dawand can live up to expectations, it will solve a major problem for this team going forward. If it doesn't, it creates another gaping hole that they have to then address. I said earlier, if the quarterback is the number one problem that this team has to figure out, left tackle might be number 2.
I don't think it's debatable it's number 2. And G, real quick, because we're up against the break here. A big guy like Dawand versus the speed of Micah Parsons. Does that favor Micah Parsons? I mean, obviously Micah's a better player, but the speed versus size there, how does that matchup play out?
I mean, Micah Parsons is one of the elite guys. If he thought it was hot last weekend, it's hot now. They got Micah Parsons coming to town, and he's ready to go. I mean, this is a tough matchup for him because Micah can get low. He can do some of the things and bend. So it's going to be a tough matchup to see what he gets, but it's going to be a key matchup because if they can't block him, it's going to be a long day for Joe Flacco.
All right, those are 3 matchups we're keeping an eye on. Let us know which one you are watching. You can comment on our YouTube page. And when we come back after a 2-minute break, we're giving you some pre-written headlines. We're going to tell you what happens on Sunday before it happens in one of our favorite segments here. We'll be back on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Welcome back to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. It is time to wrap up today's show the same way we do every Friday during football season with some pre-written headlines. We'll tell you how the game goes before it even happens. Jason, you're starting us off today.
One of these days, I'm going to pick the Browns. This is not that day. Packers coming to town, 8.5-point favorite. It's not very flashy or creative, but the Browns are about to get packed away. Jordan Love and Micah Parsons lead Packers to 24-17 win. I do think it's going to be close.
Close.
Yeah, I think the Browns cover, if that counts for anything.
It does.
I think they cover. I think they keep it relatively close. I don't think it gets away from them like it did last week. They just don't have they don't have the firepower on offense to keep up with Green Bay. I'm not for sure, frankly, how they're even going to get to 17, but hopefully a turnover of some sort, short field, maybe Judkins breaks one. 24-17.
I'm along the same thinking of Jason, but I just didn't think the score was going to be as high. So my headline was pretty simple. Who cut the cheese? Browns defense keeps Green Bay in check, but the offense stinks again in a 20-13 loss. Just like Jason, I do think the Browns cover. I think this will be closer than Vegas and a lot of outsiders think, but I just don't know how this Browns offense is going to score enough points to outgun Jordan Love and the Packers. G?
Man, listen, the Browns got the brown helmets. I think they're called the Alpha Dogs coming out. You know how I feel about the brown and new uniforms and stuff, but that ain't got nothing to do with the game, though, because they got no love for the Browns at home versus the Packers. By the way, they lose 34-17, and here's the highlight and the subheadline you got to get. Gabriel replaces Flacco in the beginning of the fourth quarter. Wow. And the Gabriel era begins early.
So it's 3 for the Packers, and are you going to make it a clean sweep?
Yeah, I'm picking the Packers too, guys. It's time to pack it up. Jordan Love and the Packers end the Browns season before it even really starts. They're heading away off to the offseason after week 3.
1, 2, 3, Cancun.
So the good news is anytime we all agree, we're often wrong. However, we all picked the Ravens last week and we were right. So
yeah.
We are 0-1 in our unanimous predictions. But speaking of winners, we got to give a minute to the Cleveland Guardians right now, guys. They've won 13 of 15. They just completed the sweep of the Detroit Tigers. They beat Scooble yesterday. The pitching staff has been immaculate for the last 15 games. And Jason, I know we talked about it in the YouTube show. If you want a longer discussion, just find the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube. You can find that 20-minute discussion. What they've done is simply incredible. And do you think it's sustainable for the final 10 games of the year?
Count this team out at your own peril. They've already come back from longer odds than what they face now. The division is very much – I mean, a game and a half is nothing in the wild card with 10 games to go. Obviously a big series this weekend against Minnesota. Pablo Lopez, really good pitcher. He's been hurt all year. You can watch tonight's game on KYC. It's the final KYC game of the season. They're still in this. And Detroit's feeling the pressure now. They'll get Atlanta at home this weekend. If they drop 1 or 2 to the Braves, who have been playing better as of late, then this is the division is well within their reach.
Hey, listen, it's an exciting season. This is the team that actually wins. We count them out all the time, and for whatever the reason, they refuse to die. I said if they swept the Tigers, I would pick them to be to win a wild card or win the division. They swept the Tigers, and I got to be a man of my word. And we are drinking the Kool-Aid and the Kool-Aid Mafia, but it is Guardians Red. We're going with the Guardians red for the Kool-Aid because the Browns not giving it to me.
They got 4 games against Minnesota, a doubleheader on Saturday. We are back live at the 2-minute warning of the Browns game versus the Packers. We'll see you then. Peace.